What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Origins podcast. Good response on the last couple, I think. I checked on the first one. Obviously, we did that like double upload almost. We did two in the week. First one did pretty well on the old Podbean. I think the one I uploaded yesterday, the Kyber one's on like 3 views on YouTube. So props to the 3 of you. Might be, maybe it's on 5 now. Yeah, no. I mean, when did we last record the last one? It wasn't even a week ago, was it?
Thursday, Wednesday.
Been up to much over the weekend?
Out and about Saturday. I went out some food, went out some drinks. Sunday had a bit of a. Can you hear that when my WhatsApp pings?
No.
Okay, good. Sunday, just a bit of a wholesome day. Just had some lunch, went on a walk, and then yesterday I trained, but I couldn't really do a lot because everything was shut down.
Did your gym open then?
Yeah, it was shut during the hours of the funeral, but it was open the rest of the day. So it was absolutely rammed as well, like fucking rammed. And the thing is, even though it's a really big gym, when it's rammed, everything's taken. And like I'm on a cable and I'll just go to fill up a water bottle, I'll go to the toilet and someone's on it and changed everything. Or I literally, because to get steps up, I like to walk around in between sets. I'll just wander around the gym. I'll wander around for 30 seconds and come back and someone's took my attachment off the cable and putting theirs on. So even though I've got my hoodie and water bottle there next to the cable, it's really irritating. So I'll try and avoid it in peak hours. But what about you, birthday boy? Get up to much?
Yeah, it's my birthday on Saturday, big 24. We went to, I consumed like too much food over the weekend. So we went out. I mean, yeah, I'll talk through the day. So in the morning, had everyone over and Leah had bought she'd gone to Costco and got like pastries, cookies, brownies. What else did we have here? Can't remember. Muffins and stuff. It's all on the site now. And then went out for brunch at the Ivy on Marlow High Street. Very nice. What did I have? I forgot what I had.
I saw you had a glass of champagne, was it? Or
Yeah,
Prosecco?
we had some champagne, yeah. First time I've had alcohol in God knows how long. Can't remember the last time I drank. But good food then. And then we went out for dinner as well. Some new restaurant, had a nice steak. Very good steak, actually. I made the mistake of getting the sirloin though. It was too fatty. I don't like the fatty meat. That's what I had. The starter, lamb tacos, really good. Has some like really nice sauce in it. It wasn't like too spicy or anything. It was like a Mediterranean, I think it's like Turkish owned restaurant, but it was like Mediterranean food. But very, very good, very nice. And then we had lemon cheesecake for dessert, which was banging as well.
Sensational. I had an Italian, which was quite nice. I had like breads to start, and it was like they gave me like literally probably over a loaf of different kind of breads with some olive oil and balsamic, and then I had belly pot to start, and then a burrata and pesto pasta, and then who I was with didn't finish their pizza. They like a pepperoni pizza. It was a mint one, so I had half of that as well. So that was a fat meal, which was pretty nice in Beverly. So we've had some good food over the weekend, and then back to daily routine. Really, food's been upped, so we're in an okay spot for food. I'm still starving, to be honest. But no, pretty good weekend all in all.
You mentioned that you'd weighed yourself for the first time.
Yeah, I weighed myself for the first time yesterday. I was 196.6 upped food, and today I was 195.2. So we're talking almost 40 pounds down this summer without even weighing myself. Obviously, 7 weeks of that has been during the week, been in a diet. So yeah, looking at almost 40 pounds down since transitioning from bodybuilding to hybrid. You can tell a bit in close. To be fair, like at the weekend I wore a jumper, which is a big jumper, and I was going to sell it because I thought I was going to rebuy it in a smaller size and sell it. But it fitted fine. It didn't fit too different. So I don't think I look that much different. I've just lost a lot of fullness and obviously a lot of body fat. So I was pretty happy to still be wearing jumpers that I had in the last off season. So it's not too bad.
I think there's a lot of body fat from like lower body, abs, face that's come off. Like loads of water as well, obviously. Like at least 10 to 15 pounds of that 40 is fluid.
I reckon I'll jump up 5-6 pounds once I'm full again as well. Because obviously, because it's been aggressive in the week and my calories have been so low for me, and carbs haven't really, bar weekends, carbs haven't been above 200 gram in 6-7 weeks. So realistically, I'm running on flat. I'm running on empty all the time. So now they're getting bumped up. We should be absolutely fine, and there won't be too much of a difference. Lower body, there's a difference. They're so shredded. My legs are so shredded, like they're close to being in. So there's a lot of difference there. But upper body, I don't think there's that much difference. And as you said, my face has lost probably 20 pounds anyway. So.
Yeah. Well, we obviously, like, you've been dieting for, what do you say, like 7 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I was dieting as well leading up to the holiday I went on, and I think that was 6 weeks. I dropped maybe 15 pounds. I think I was probably arguably more aggressive than you throughout the week. So were you doing a proper protein sparing modified fast?
On days when I could and felt like it, as I said in the first podcast, I took it on a day-by-day basis based on how I felt and my sessions. So some days would be 150, 130 carb. Some days would then be like 180, 190, 200 carb, depending on how I felt and how my recovery was. Because obviously my training got a lot more intense than yours in terms of the switch. So I'd probably say maybe 1-2 a week would be protein spared, like rest days particularly, if I get away with it. Yeah, yours was pretty aggressive with literally eating pro veg.
I think as well, just trying to get food in. Over the 6 weeks, didn't eat on some days. Like, it would go the whole day and not even get a meal in. Luckily, I'm not that stressed and busy now, so I can actually have an actual protocol in place and have something that I'm working towards. We're going to South Africa in 8 weeks now, so I've got 8 weeks to pull off. I'll say maybe 20 pounds or so is the goal. I'm sat at one.
Really?
I think so. I want to go. I mean, it's actually summer there, so I want to look semi-decent. And when over the time I was away, I put on like 6 or 7 pounds of the 15 or so I lost. I didn't get to like a happy weight. I dropped to 185, which I start to look really lean at like the 180 mark. So below that is when I started to look really lean. That's when prep last year started to get really hard as well. The second I dropped below 180. So if I can drop to 180, 182, 183, I'll be happy with how I look. So currently sat at 194. So I suppose it's not 20 pounds, is it? 15 pounds.
So pull off £2 a week with
Yeah.
with an off meal or so a week, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. So there's not a chance, I think, for both of us, there's not a chance really we'll go a full weekend without there being some sort of social occasion. That we've got shows coming up. I've got the launch of Kyber coming up. But there's going to be things happening. So there's going to be obviously a fair degree of flexibility still throughout the next 8 weeks for me.
But I think we're in a position where that's what we want.
Yeah.
That was one of the main driving factors for both. We want to be able to have occasions on the weekend and enjoy ourselves. But it's just having that controlled restriction during the week when we can.
It's also, I think it's important to highlight as well with the quite drastic restriction throughout the week. I wouldn't personally recommend it to most people because a high level of restriction throughout the week is really going to result in just binging at the weekend. Especially, I mean, I've seen it recently with some people where it's like massively restricted throughout the week to the point where there's not even getting any like veg in because it's just like pure minimal, as little as possible. And then that all builds up throughout the week, and at the weekend, the second you hit Friday night, it's like bang.
Yeah.
And everything goes in, and there's a complete lack of control. Obviously, that's just building up some terrible eating habits as well over a long time.
Yeah, we wouldn't do this with a client how we treated ourselves, almost use ourselves as guinea pigs. But we know, after half a decade of doing this, that we know exactly our eating habits, that we're not going to binge. We're in a comfortable position. We have a good relationship with food, and also that we can push ourselves a lot harder than we would with a client. Like, we're both willing. We've been in the trenches. We've got absolutely shredded. We're both willing to have 4 days of not a lot of food to then bump our food up to. We need to also highlight that we don't go on binge on a weekend. We literally just bump our food up to some maintenance calories and work from there. We're not just going off plan and eating whatever we can in sight. It's more just almost take some days off as intuitive eating and eat some satiation and enjoy some food or a couple of drinks.
Yeah, that off-plan meal is like actually an off-plan meal and not a binge meal.
Yeah, we're not ordering in Domino's 4 cookies, a Ben and Jerry's, and a cookie dealer. We're actually going to a restaurant and using it as a social occasion, making a memory, having a good time, having a nice meal, as opposed to, you don't see just eating the house out and ordering shit off Deliveroo and then something else and something else. It's just at a point now where our intuitive eating is absolutely spot on, and it's a case of just prioritize. It's more prioritizing enjoyment and an occasion as opposed to the food itself.
It's also practicing mindful eating. For so long, we've both been either on a meal plan or just focusing on numbers of a day. Like food to us isn't really food. It's just been a number on a screen that we need to. So actually appreciating food for what it is, obviously within the social occasion as well, practicing mindful eating, learning hunger cues as well, when realizing when you're actually full, when it's time to stop eating, because that's how we've been evolved to eat, is to stop when we're full. Yeah. There's a lot of benefits to having that across the week, but you need to be able to manage it properly, and you need to, if you want to incorporate intuitive eating, you need to know how to do it. And I think the way to do that is be aware of what both ends of the spectrum look like. Like you said, we've been on the extreme of dieting end. So yeah, that's what we're doing. And in terms of holiday prep, I mean, a lot of people will argue that you don't need to even prep for a holiday. I think in the previous mindset of maybe bodybuilding related, it sounds silly to pull off body fat for a holiday just to look good whilst you're away. But I think our mindset now has changed, and obviously we want to look good when we are away.
It depends. It's goal related again, isn't it? If you're a bodybuilder, you've got stage next year and you're in an off season, unless it aligns with a needed mini cut, it's completely pointless, because at the end of the day, no one's going to look at you on holiday and think, fuck, no one gives a shit. They're on holiday. They're on holiday for themselves, unless obviously you went to Ocean Beach or Ibiza or something. You actually wanted to pick up some girls or some shit. If you want to look good for that, and not even look good, because at the end of the day, people, girls or anyone, don't care. It's to feel confident within yourself. But if you are a lifestyle and you want to feel good and look good, then of course a holiday prep makes sense.
And don't get shredded.
No.
Well, because it's not necessary.
It's not necessary. No one likes the shredded look, and then you don't feel good in the shredded look either.
You don't feel.
And I can tell you, after 2-3 days, the shredded look's then just going to probably be a watery shredded look, and then that looks worse.
Yeah, I'll tell you firsthand from last year, going on holiday within a few hours of competing, obviously I ate post show, so arriving at the hotel, abs gone.
We both, after show, I was 4 days, you was about 4 hours, and we both stood on stage peeled, and then both went on holiday with no abs. And the weirdest look physically is to have a peeled legs, delts, arms, chest, with then just no midsection. Looks fucking weird. I remember being on the beach thinking, I look like, I got my ex take photo of me. I was like, I look weird. It looks like I'm 20 weeks out of my abs, just fucking this water all over me. And then everywhere else is just shredded. And it just was like, didn't make sense, doesn't look good.
Especially when you're like so full as well from the extra like veins everywhere with the heat as well. And then there's just like this sack of water on your abs. I don't want it as well. It was horrible.
I once had it in Ibiza. I remember Chaz kept saying, like, fucking hell, lad, your arms are shredded. Because on like the third day or fourth day when I was in a tank, he was like, your arms are shredded. I was like, yeah, I know. But then when I lifted my midsection up, like my abs were gone. And that's just because like my abs were so full and semi-dehydrated, but my midsection just responded completely different.
Yeah. But yeah, that's how like we kind of I mean approach a diet phase in general now is a large degree of restriction throughout the week and then incorporate some more flexibility. But I think in terms of like what we'd recommend to most people to do is to have that degree of flexibility throughout the week and don't have a set meal plan. I think you did a post on it today about the all or nothing approach. You don't need that all or nothing approach that's been kind of popularized recently and in recent years. There's absolutely no reason why you can't have a good level of flexibility every single day, even if it's like a full meal untracked a day or whatever it might be. So I wanted to speak to you a little bit about your actual like CrossFit training and the sessions, because I think we mentioned it briefly in the last one, but the actual sessions themselves are so different. Obviously, you've got like the movements are very different, the incorporated movements that you haven't done in years, but also the actual session structure is very different as well. I just wanted to ask you, like, I'm interested in it. Obviously, I've stepped away from bodybuilding in terms of goals, but the way I train is still fairly similar, and I haven't really delved into fully CrossFit now. So I wanted to just ask, like, rationale behind movement choices, session setup, stuff like that.
So what I've kind of done is it's not full CrossFit. It's very much hybrid. So I think I've said in the other podcasts that I've got movements that are my strength compound. So I've gone in all the big three compound lifts again. Also like overhead press. I think that's the only one that starts the session. So we'll take like today I've got quads and delts later on. So I start the session off with my OHP, overhead press, which I go in, big bang for the buck. That's the compound movement. So I start with that. And I do strength work on there. So triples, some fives, and then a higher rep set at like 8 to 10. So on every single session, I'll box off my large lift, my strength lift at the start of the session. Then I'll move on to a little bit of almost bodybuilding work, which is for me is just to tick off hitting that muscle group and getting enough volume in. These will typically be all isolation pretty much because of how demanding the initial exercise is and then how demanding the conditioning work is at the end. So today, like we'll have an OHP, 5-6 sets of strength work, which I will progress and look to get stronger and stronger and stronger. Then I'll move on to like side delts, but again, it'll be one superset in which I'll box off the shorten range and the lengthen range, and I'll just fry the delts in a superset. And then I'll basically do like extensions and adductor and some tricep push downs, which again, I'll move from shorten range to lengthen range. So the actual hypertrophy part of the session is boxed off within supersets and really like smart, meticulous training, which can be done in 20 to 30 minutes. Then I'll move on to conditioning work, which I don't have set conditioning work. That's the only part of the session that isn't set. They'll always have the same premise and principles behind them. But the conditioning work will be related to the muscle groups trained that day. So it'll be shit like the ski erg or the assault bike when I'm doing lower body days. Delts is today, so I'll do things like squat thrusters, which will be, so like dumbbell front squats and then dumbbell squat thrusters. So we'll be doing almost a squat and a press all in one, or a push press, ski erg. What else? Like devil presses or burpees, because they're pushing movements. And then when I'm doing like my hamstrings on my back, we'll see more of like the rower incorporated in, pen lane rows, dumbbell RDLs, kettlebell swings, things that are all going to be using my hips, my upper back, even like barbell bicep curls I throw in EMOMs at the end. So the conditioning work will be, a degree of EMOMs, as many reps as possible, as many rounds as possible. what else? I'm actually trying to think of what it's called when I do things like I do a lot of 9, 15, 21, 30, 30, 21, 15, 9, working through rep ranges and calories burnt, but I'm trying to think what that's actually called, like Metcons, not sure. So every session will be structured the same. So I'll have a compound lift, my strength work, quickly box off hypertrophy work, and then it'll be 2 to 3 rounds of different kinds of conditioning work.
Sweet.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. With because obviously I've done a little bit of this myself, and one thing I found is, which I don't know how you're doing this, is train a certain muscle group and then go into that conditioning work having done that same muscle group previously. Like I've gone and done, I suppose I'm doing more volume than you are before going into that session, but trying to do press ups, devil presses, like OHPs after already frying your delts previously, it's really hard, I found.
Well, it is the biggest thing to say for anyone to get into hybrid is to forget whatever strength you have, whatever strength you've done, your pressing strength, your pulling strength, your hack squatting leg press strength, strip that back down to a minimum. Don't think you're being a fanny for sticking a 2.5 kilo or using like an 8 kilo dumbbell, because by the time you get to that session, you get to the conditioning part of the session, or by the time you're in the third round of a 5-round EMOM, you're not going to be able to lift anything. So obviously the OHP is boxed off at the start when I'm completely fresh. But then by the end of it, if I'm doing push presses, I've literally got, like a 15 kilo bar with 5s on the side, or like I'm using 8 kilo dumbbells for squat thrusters, because when I'm 21 reps into a squat thruster, even the 8 kilos, I can barely press by the end of it. So I'd leave that saying of leave your ego at the door is legit, because you're fried. And you got to think a lot of like CrossFitters won't even do that, the actual hypertrophy part that I still incorporate, because they're not really bothered about their physique as much. I just don't want to lose any more tissue, so I just box it off. But yeah, you've literally just got to reduce the weight completely. And at the end of the day, it's completely novel. Every week you're going to get better. You're just going to become accustomed to it. And then it's about picking smart movements again, because I've got pull and hams tomorrow, back and hams tomorrow. So if I started doing the rower today and put some Penlay rows or some pull-ups in my, or some dumbbell RDLs, just because it's lower almost, if I put them in my conditioning work today, tomorrow I'm not going to be able to do back and hams. And likewise, tomorrow I'm not going to put burpees in, or I'm not going to put devil press in, because my chest and delts are fried from today. So again, it's just like you would pick exercise selection and how you'd set up a training split from a bodybuilding standpoint. You've still got it still is intricate within the programming on the functional side of things.
There's a lot more recovery demand, a lot more management of recovery with it. I think from what I found, it could be, again, just not being used to training this way, but it's much harder to recover. A session will take more out of you than doing it this way, than doing just a regular bodybuilding session.
As weird as it is, and this is anecdotal as well, but I can massively tell 2 hours after a meal how I feel compared to before the meal. When you're in the off season, whatever, well, when I was bodybuilding, a meal by meal, I wouldn't feel that different recovery wise. And it's so weird. And I don't know if this is just me. There's no mad literature. I've not looked into this, but I can physically within myself feel the difference once I've had like meal 1, meal 2, as opposed to if I was to delay that meal, or if I was to train after just meal 1 or whatever. I can massively feel the difference that, okay, I've had some carbohydrate and I'm starting to feel better again, and my body's like initiating that recovery process. Because I'll get out of bed in the morning and some days I'll be broken and I'll be like, Jesus, this is aching, this is aching. And as I then progress throughout the day and I've had a couple of meals and now my food's been up, I can massively tell the difference on like a meal by meal basis how I'm feeling.
Yeah, it's because there's like a mixture of demand on it, because doing like complex movements like an OHP, or even like deadlifts from the floor, again, there's a large level of like CNS fatigue and stimulation there. Then there's a cardiovascular aspect, which there is a recovery demand there. But then also like muscular endurance, which maybe we would do a high rep. on
but
like
it's
an adductor for like 30 reps. But when do you
a
ever
fixed position, like a leg press or a fixed position high rep set. Like you got to think there's also the skill acquisition involved in learning how to, clean and press, learning how to do a thruster, etc. You've got all these new neurological muscular connections that have not been done before. You're a novel. You're like a Bambi on ice to begin with. So you're recovering from every single aspect. And as you said, with me, even especially now I'm running, I have strength work boxed, hypertrophy work boxed, conditioning work, which is a mix of aerobic capacity, muscular endurance, new skill acquisition. And then you've got the full other end of the spectrum, which is 5Ks and long distance running. So like everything's being boxed off. So like it does take its toll.
Yeah. But as a result, like you're gonna become like an athlete again. Like you're hitting every single angle here. I was actually going to ask about the running as well. How have you found that?
Painful in my feet, my shins, and my hips. Aerobic wise, sweet. I've always naturally, as I said, a cross country runner, and then like, I never like my exams. I never fucking ran and practiced for that. My dad's an unbelievable runner, and genetically, I'm built to run from like my lung capacity and aerobically. So that's actually been sweet. And now I've done a couple. I'm solid. It's just getting. I run outdoors. I run on pavements and stuff. So it's just getting used to that. That's been what's been challenging for me. And then also trying to fit it in around my other work and when to do it because of recovery demands. So I'm enjoying it. I couldn't run on a treadmill because I get so bored. I absolutely hate steady state cardio. I hate Stairmaster, treadmill, bike, cross trainer. My autistic natures, I get bored within 10 seconds, like even doing steps on the treadmill before a session just to warm up or just to box some steps off. I get so bored, but I can run outside and I'm sweet, but I couldn't run on a treadmill or anything like that. It just, I'm so bored. I can't stay in one place at once.
Yeah. Have you got any new shoes? Any running trainers?
I am looking at which are the best to buy. I'm currently wearing my dad's. But I'm looking at the best. I'm trying to weigh up the best pair to buy. There's a couple of Nike pairs that I'm looking at, but some are good for like long distance, some are good for mid, some are good for sprint. So I'm kind of figure out how. I don't really want to be ever going above 10K because then that's just too much time. And then again, I want to be incorporating some sprint work as well. And by sprint work, I mean like 400, 600 meter sprints at like my 5-10K pace. So it's not all out Usain Bolting. It's more just working up like to build up my like per 5 minute time to then help with the longer distance running. But it's also so much fun learning again, because obviously there was millions of things more we could learn with bodybuilding and that side of things, but we are pretty elite and have quite a high level of expertise with that. There's not many podcasts we can listen to now or videos we can listen to where we're like, wow, I didn't know that, or that's something absolutely crazily new. Where now there's so much stuff where it's like, I'm back at school again, which is really nice a really nice place to be.
Have you found any new like content creators or like people in the CrossFit hybrid space?
There's a place called Hybrid Performance Center in Bolton. And there's a guy called Daniel there, Andy Hibb, Debbie, a girl there. Been watching a lot of stuff from them. Fergus Crawley, been reading a lot of stuff from him and looking at a lot of stuff there. Apart from that, no particular person. Like loads of different people, but no like actual individual person apart from them at the minute. So if anyone wants to have a look into it, I had Josh Wolfpack ask, and I said check these guys out, and he's having a look because he's got some clients that want to go a bit more functional. Not him himself, but the clients that want to go a bit more functional.
Have you had any clients come and kind of, because I've had this as well, I've had quite a few people be like, I've seen what you've been doing with a bit of this hybrid stuff. Obviously, like I mentioned in the last one, so many people are doing this now. Just got a warning for the Zoom. Yeah, like people have come and said, "Oh, can you add a bit into mine? Do a bit of conditioning stuff. I want to be healthier. I want to be fitter." Which is kind of parroting what I was saying last week. Is like people were just caught up in this bodybuilding bubble. I think like now it's been presented that there is another option. It's like, okay, maybe I do actually want to be healthier, take care of my heart a little bit. So have you had that, but to more of an extent of like people
Right.
fully coming away from bodybuilding and doing what you're doing?
I'd say probably 50% of my clients have either converted or wanted to incorporate some kind of functional work, whether that's just one day, like a work capacity day, or whether that's just at the end of a session throwing it. Sorry, whether that's at the end of the session throwing something in, or switching up their current cardio for conditioning work, something like that. I've probably had 50% of my client base want to switch slightly.
Well, you've had Ivor, haven't you? Who's like actually pulled out of prep and like really changed.
Really well. Obviously, he come from a performance powerlifting background anyway, so we wanted to throw some of that back in. And then he got so fit from the amount of cardio he was doing and the weight he lost that he wanted to switch over to some functional work as well. So his main goal is still growing. It's still building muscle, but he wants to be a bit of a beast as well and wants to drive up his lifts. And at the end of the day, his enjoyment is more important. And if he wants to throw a squat back in and he can squat well, he can bench well, he can deadlift well because he's had so much practice. You know, these movement patterns will still work for him. At the end of the day, I'm not going to say no, you can't. You have to say in a hack squat because you want to compete one day. So yeah, his split and sessions are very different. But again, his food and his intake and his recovery is just going to match that so that he still progresses and grows muscle.
I think this is what I'm noticing, and I think this is the way it's going to go going forward. Is like previously it was if you're in this space of bodybuilding, if you were even remotely interested in bodybuilding, you had to be all in. You had to do everything a certain way. You had to apply the same methodologies. Um, Whereas now it's like the doors have been opened to another avenue, but everybody's kind of going at it, into it in their own like little way. There's no kind of set structure. There's no kind of people that people are following where it's like, I have to do all of this stuff this person's doing. Like Ivor as an example, he's adding in more powerlifting based stuff. You're adding in more CrossFit based stuff with still maintaining a physique. I'm arguably like still just fully bodybuilding, but with just 2 or 3 sessions a week of conditioning work, and like everybody is going down these little routes of how they actually want to train and how like what they enjoy the most. And it's not good that like the last few years of like this bubble that like we've been in is people actually probably haven't really enjoyed what they've been doing but felt like they had to do it anyway.
Oh, it was almost that. What you put in sprint work? That's not bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Oh, what? You do a bit of running. You know, like it was almost anything was looked down upon outside of our bubble. Everything was looked down upon. You train like that, you still do a superset. Well, that's not optimal. Like, okay. Well, realistically, there's many ways to skin a cat.
Yeah, but it's not even just like, oh, you run, you're not a bodybuilder. It was little things like supersets, or you do your cardio on a bike instead of a stairmaster because it fatigues your legs more. Like just
Yeah.
little things like that. That yeah, I think we're glad to be out of that, aren't we?
Definitely, and I try and say this with my lifestyle clients as well, because the intricacies just got you see on social media, the intricacies are almost pushing for that 1% extra variable. And I think people need to realize if you're not in that top bracket that you need to focus on the stuff that actually matters. You need to make sure that you're turning the big cogs, the ones that impact the week the most. You don't need to be, if you're a lifestyle client, don't even think about the weekly sets per body part. You don't even think about meal timings and frequency, the best pre-workout to have or your intra-workout stack. If you're not training hard, if you're not sleeping 8 hours, if you're not even hitting your macros and your calories, don't start worrying about your meal timings and your frequency. Focus on the big rocks, focus on the things that impact the week the most and nail them before you're just going to go into all the intricacies, because people just get caught up in it. This stuff matters. Make sure the building blocks, the foundations are there before going into whether you should be having ashwagandha pre-bed when you've not even hit your calories and you're still not sleeping 8 hours. So it's just like focus on the things that matter to begin with, rather than getting caught up on social media of this variable, this variable, this variable. Because I think people got lost within it massively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely agree. I think that's a good note to end this podcast on. Very, very insightful there, Tim. So we
I didn't even realize we've talked for this long again.
I know it's almost 40 minutes again. So we are obviously we are back regular. We've proven it now with the second episode. Let's see if we can make 3. You've got your transformation program, transformation challenge. Everyone get involved in that. Khyber release has actually been pushed back from when I last did the podcast. Literally talking in that podcast about how things can crop up and get in the way, and then almost the day after that, something crops up and got in the way. So we've been pushed back by about 2 weeks. So it's now
as we said in that last video, like the amount of setbacks you have when you don't even fucking realize. Within probably 6 hours of that podcast, you then message me saying this has happened.
Well, I uploaded it in the evening. Sorry, recorded it, and the next morning I woke up to an email saying they can't put the labels on. There's a 2-week delay. They're just not going to get to us until this time. And obviously we've got like things planned, content collection, everything like that. So I was like, fuck's sake, I just woken up to that. So it's been pushed back to the 17th of October. That's not going to change. If it does change, it will actually come forward, which obviously I'll let people know about. Yeah. So yeah, frustrating, but that's coming up as well. But yeah, I'll cut this short now before we get cut off. Anything else you want to mention before we go?
No, I think it's a pretty good episode. Hope everyone enjoys it, and yeah, we'll be back next week with another one.
Do we know what day we're going to be uploading these?
Wednesday.
Okay, this will be up on Wednesday then.
Wednesday, and if we ever do a double header, then just throw that one like up on the Saturday or something.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next Wednesday.
See you later.
Cheers. Press the wrong button.